Hey, MMT followers, Christina Fuges back with another MMT chat. My guest today is Bob VanCoillie, who is Senior Manager of Kenvue's Mold Management Center of Excellence. And he is a MoldMaking Technology Editorial Advisory Board member. Hello, Bob.
Hello?
All right, so everyone knows Johnson & Johnson, but can you tell us about Kenvue and what your current role is there?
Sure. So Kenvue is what used to be formerly Johnson & Johnson's consumer products division. What essentially happened is Johnson & Johnson decided to split off the consumer division, and we became a separate entity, which is now the company is called Kenvue. So Johnson & Johnson is now just medical device and pharmaceutical divisions.
Got it. And what is your current role?
So my current role is the Mold Management Center of Excellence lead. So in that, I manage our entire global portfolio of molds. So there's about 1,700 molds that we have globally across all technologies. So I manage the life cycle of all of those assets, work with our project teams where they're developing new products that require new molds, things like that, and manage all of those as well.
All right. So why don't you share, let's go back a little bit. Why don't you share a little bit of your work history and your mold making experience and education?
Sure. So coming out of college, I came out with a packaging degree. So for a lot of my career, I worked as a packaging engineer, working on things like rigid plastic components, bottles, caps, things like that. Also worked on flexibles, cartons, labels, and all that kind of stuff. Did a lot of design work in those aspects. For a period of time, supported manufacturing operations in that, and then took over global role for mold management, supporting all of the mold assets that we have globally.
Big job.
Yeah.
All right. So if I've learned one thing over the past year, it's that you are really passionate about tooling digitalization, which is a term people can throw around. But you're really working hard, I think, to educate the entire supply chain on the benefits of this. So one, can you explain exactly what you mean by tooling digitalization? And then we'll get into like, where does this passion for this come from?
Sure. So mold or tooling digitalization for me essentially means that we're looking at molds. I split things two ways. There's life cycle aspects of molds, and then there's process performance aspects of molds. And digitalizing these types of things includes putting IoT devices on molds, embedding sensors within molds so that we can gather and track digital data information as it relates to the life cycle aspects as well as the process performance aspects. And that's essentially the definition of what I
Okay.
feel digitalization is and how I'm kind of morphing our portfolio into including those aspects.
Okay, so what is driving this from your perspective for you personally? And I would imagine for brand owners, OEMs overall.
So I think so for me as a mold management lead, the biggest thing or the primary goal that I have is ensuring or minimizing the risk to supply chain business continuity. So from a passionate perspective, it's it's my role, and that's what ultimately I'm here for, and that's what I'm going after as an organization. And incorporating the digital aspects into that, like I said, if you look at the life cycle aspects as well as the process performance aspects, from a life cycle perspective, gathering all of that data allows us to move from where we are now, which is good. It's a predictive asset life cycle management process, but having that digital data in terms of understanding at any point in time what the condition of a mold is in, how many cycles it's tracking, is the cycle time appropriate and whatnot. You can get to the point of taking it a step further and getting as best as you can get from a true condition-based life cycle approach. So you're to the point where you're essentially performing maintenance only as needed because you'll know exactly when you need to perform that. You're not predicting months out when you're going to need to perform that. And then on the process performance side, this is a whole new and a whole additional aspect of what digitalization will give you, because there's really no way, whether it's an OEM, a mold maker, whether it's a converter, nobody is really tracking the performance aspects of molds once they're in a press, in terms of understanding how are things processing. Are your water temperatures right? Are your flow rates, pack pressure, flow rates correct? Are the pressures correct and things like that? And you can eventually get to a point on the process side of things where when you're managing and looking at this data, you can use artificial intelligence to not only tell you when to expect things to happen down the road, but you can get, real-time information in terms of identifying what's happening in your process, to the point where you could even take it, a step further and start talking about, eliminating or minimizing the metrology aspects, so that you can produce bottles, caps, whatever it is, and do like a rapid release approach and just, improve your speed to market. So it just kind of goes down the road.
Oh my gosh, I like talk about streamlining processes, right? And efficiency. It's
Yep.
huge. All right. So looking at this evolution, do you have any advice for mold builders and molders or converters who want to be part of this?
I think from, my experience from a mold builder, and even mold builders that I've talked to, not just through MMT, but other mold builders as well, um, they're definitely excited and open to, a lot of the digital aspects. I think the challenges that I see are really with respect to the converters,
Yeah,
um, because where we're looking to, I mean, where we're looking to embed sensors, and where we're looking to monitor and track more information, it can, at the onset, it can seem like we're kind of being intrusive and trying to gather all of this information, but the storyline really is, and what I try to tell the converters as we're having these conversations is, look, it's really a tool for us to be able to collaborate and manage all of these assets much better. It's information sharing. It's not just us gathering information and not sharing it with anybody, because when you look at mold maintenance, it's a two-way street. Like, I can't maintain all of these molds by myself. I need collaboration from the converter. So
yeah,
it's really a way of bringing that all together, um, and converters partnering in that, in my eyes at least, offers them or gives them a real competitive advantage. Because for companies that are OEMs like us, if a converter is willing to partner with something like that, like, why would we not view them as, a tier one or premier supplier?
exactly. Exactly. It's really getting away from that traditional mindset, which is hard, which is
Right.
steeped in this manufacturing industry,
Right.
especially plastics and mold making. All right.
Right.
So, from your OEM brand
Mm.
owner perspective, are there other, outside of tooling digitalization, are there other new opportunities or new business opportunities that mold makers and converters may not be aware of?
Um, so from a mold maker perspective, the things that I see as I look to partner with who I consider preferred mold shops around the globe, it's really it's really having the right expertise, from a mold design perspective, from even having, personnel that have, mold processing, expertise, which kind of leads into the other point from a mold builder, the ability to have on site, to have a molding press, so that you can do things like FATs for molds
Mhm.
and things like that. That goes, for me at least, that goes a long way, because you can do an FAT at a mold at a supplier to understand where your baseline is. Mold then gets sent to the converter. They run it in their SAT, and you can compare the two. You'd be surprised how often a mold maker will run something, everything looks great, gets to the converter and things are off. So
Ah,
somewhere there's a process difference, or it could be a press issue that maybe wasn't realized before. So I think things like that from a mold builder perspective are important going forward. Now, obviously, it's economy of scales. Not every mold builder is going to be able to afford, something like a Unilloy 199 or whatever, or a
right.
Beckett machine, whatever they are. But um, for me, at least, I think those are some of the
So value add.
positives, are some of the things that I look for.
All right.
From a converter perspective, it's really just comes down to collaboration and information sharing, not just from a digital aspect, but really in all of the work that we're doing. It really should be more of a partnership in my mind,
I
as we're
agree. We're
as we're looking
all,
at these
yeah,
things.
we're all in this together, as they say, right?
Right.
All right. So last but not least, I know that you do a lot of road tripping. You're one of those. So my
Yeah.
family does that too. So give me a little bit about your most recent family trip.
Yeah, so we do have an RV, so we took it this past summer, went so we're outside of Philadelphia,
Yeah.
right near where you live.
Yay.
Yeah. And so we went up north, upstate New York, then we went over
Oh,
to Vermont, New Hampshire, and then up into Maine.
I love Maine. Oh,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. Actually,
So
probably right now it's probably beautiful up there, unless maybe the foliage is done up there already.
yeah,
I don't know. That's
so it was
awesome.
nice. It was
All
fun.
right.
We had,
All right, Bob.
uh,
Well, thank you for your time and giving
yeah,
us a little insight into who you are and into your passion for tooling digitalization. And for everybody
sure.
out there watching, for everything mold making, visit moldmakingtechnology.com. Stay informed and stay inspired.